NLCS, the Braves on a redemption tour. They lead the Dodgers 3-2 right now. And the Braves, with all the injuries they overcame throughout the year, especially in their rotation, but also with Acuna, the Braves have had great production from all the outfielders that really ever placed Acuna. We've seen Duvall have his stretches. Eddie Rosario had a near cycle, 2 home runs, a triple, and a single. So he was a double short of the cycle. And Max Fried got lit up once, but that was really it. Beyond that, they've had great pitching as well. And it just really seems like this Braves team is really on a redemption type process. I compared it last week to the Nationals of 2019 because the Nationals always had those postseason duds. They were the 100-win team, a 97-win team, and they were always out in the first round. And the Braves, while they've been winning playoff series, still have kind of gotten that mantra where they've had those bad game sevens. They had that one game in 2019 against the Cardinals where they had allowed 10 runs in the first inning. So they've always had those weird duds in a way too. So it just seems like they're coming together, and it took all those injuries to be able to do it. And they're shutting down a lot of the Dodgers' top guys too. It's mainly the lower guys in the batting order. Bellinger, who used to be good but has struggled this year. A.J. Pollock and Chris Taylor that had 3 home runs in Game 5. It's mainly those guys that have gotten it going, but not really the top guys as much. Mookie Betts, Justin Turner's now hurt. Trey Turner has had trouble too, and the Braves done a great job of shutting that down. So I think when you look at it, they've really done everything both conceptually and just from a psychological standpoint, coming together as a team.
It is very interesting because who would have thought that the Braves were going to be the team that they are right now in the playoffs? Right. This is a team that over the years, we remember in the 90s with a great pitching staff, always when they got into the World Series and obviously got into the NLCS, they've had problems. They couldn't get the hits, the quality hits. This is a completely different team. I think this is more of a roster team, good lineup, and decent pitching. They're getting healthy at the best time. I have been absolutely impressed with this team. With what we have seen from this team and how they've played, they deserve a lot of credit. The manager and the GM deserves a lot of credit. And with all the stuff that the Braves have contended with over the years, when they got in trouble with
international money,
I think their GM got fired for that.
No, it's still the same guy.
Somebody got fired.
All right, maybe, one of the other executives, but no, it's still the same guy, Anthopoulos.
They've had a lot of problems. To get this team back in order, they gave Acuna that 8-year, $100 million contract. Fantastic. That was a steal from one of the best young players in MLB. So they have arguably the best second baseman in baseball, the best offensive infield in baseball. They've been very good. I think they're the front runners and the best team right now in baseball in this playoff. They should win it, and they could win it all. They got to knock off the Dodgers, the champions. I think the Braves are a force to be reckoned with. I can't see the Dodgers knocking off the Braves.
Not this year. It just has a very different feel to it. It's not like last year where they were very talent-driven. And I think the Braves, when healthy, have the second most talent in baseball after the Dodgers. But talent doesn't always win. You need to be able to do the little things. You got to have depth, and you got to have these guys that just come through in many different ways. And the Braves have had that so far. They've done it with clutch hitting, too. They did it off the Brewers bullpen, which is very talented. They had 2 walk-off wins to start this series, too. There's all these little things that they weren't doing in previous years that are now getting them to not only win playoff series, but dominate the way they have. So the only bad game they really had was this past Game 5. They lost close Game 3. The one game they lost to the Brewers was close too. So they haven't had any duds yet except for the Game 5.
Let's get into the Yankees and the Mets. The Mets need to find a GM. They need to find a president, and they need to find a GM. It's not going to be a Theo Epstein. It's not going to be Mr. Oakland. They're not going to get Mr. Milwaukee. So they're probably going to go after Burns, the assistant GM right now of the Dodgers. The Dodgers have been a very good team, but they have a great roster. How could you not win that roster? But Burns is the guy I think they're going to go after, and Steve Cohen's going to have to open up his pockets. Javier Baez should be their number one target in the offseason. I know a lot of Met fans are not excited about that, from the thumbs down to the start with the Yankees and the attitude of these guys and the cockiness. You got to bring cockiness to a team that has not been cocky forever. Lindor has no right to be cocky, but Javier Baez does. 37 home runs. Yeah, he batted .265, but he's going to hit better this coming year. 90 RBIs. Yeah. He's a better player than Lindor, and you need to sign him, and you're not going to have to pay him as much. The Mets need to make sure that this guy doesn't leave, because if he leaves, it's a big loss for Steve Cohen and where this team is planning to be in the next 2 years.
There's not going to be a well-rounded player like Baez available like this very often. You already have him, too. You've already seen him succeed. Yes, he has antics, but a lot of players have antics now. The young players in today's game are bringing back flair. They're bringing back all this personality. And even if it means trash talking, even if it means doing this to the Yankees players, I know accusing them of cheating with whistling is out of line because that happens in a game anyway, and that's natural. natural. That's not something that's technology based like Houston or the Red Sox. But in terms of the flair, the Mets have been had a lot of the players that have just been dull. They've been older guys that have just been not bringing the flair. Alonso brings flair. Lindor on occasion will bring flair, but he's not as outspoken as Baez is or Alonso is. But in terms of the personality, the Mets definitely need that kind of thing. In terms of the contract, even if you have to overpay him a little, do it.
Get rid of Conforto.
Goodbye. Good riddance.
I don't know why Met fans think that Conforto is a good fit, and he's the best outfielder right now available in this offseason. That's not saying much. It shows you there's not a lot of depth in the outfield.
But corner outfielders are expendable to all teams, where you can get somebody of similar defensive level and get somebody who's a much better hitter.
And cheaper. Not that Steve Cohen cares if it's cheap or not, but there's a lot to talk about as the offseason goes by after the World Series. As far as the Yankees are concerned, Yankee fans are jumping off a bridge about Aaron Boone. I don't understand why anybody cares that Aaron Boone got a multi-year deal. Every team is not going to give you a one-year deal. How many times do you see a professional team extend their coach to a one-year deal? Maybe seen it once. They're going to give you a multi-year deal. And the reason why they give a multi-year deal is because that if he gets fired, he has the time to go either take off for his family because he hasn't seen his family for 7 years because he's been a manager, or he decides that he wants to work in TV or whatever. He gives himself some time, gives himself some leeway, so he's still making money if he's not working. Are the Yankees going to live out that contract with Aaron Boone? Probably not. If Aaron Boone doesn't get this team in the World Series next year after watching this ALCS with the Astros and Red Sox, the things that the Yankees are going to do this offseason, I expect the Yankees to do all the right things in their bullpen, with their pitching staff, and who is going to play what position moving into the season in spring training.
If they do what I've been mentioning, which is get a more versatile bullpen rather than a traditional bullpen, maybe this year is kind of that test for Aaron Boone, and maybe that's why they gave him the extension, because I think they realized that Aaron Boone wasn't adjusting as well as he should have to that issues where Chapman had issues after the sticky stuff. Zach Britton, obviously, with all the injuries. Chad Green being inconsistent like he's been his whole career. I think it was kind of a shell shock for Aaron Boone, and maybe now in a full year where he could prepare for those circumstances more, maybe Brian Cashman is saying, all right, here's your chance now to manage all these guys in this kind of system, this kind of versatile modern baseball type way for a full season, because the Yankees were in the traditional bullpen mold, which was very good. They had a lot of talent in that bullpen, but it wasn't winning for modern baseball. Outside of the Royals in 2015, the championship teams weren't really winning with that kind of system. So I think they're giving him that kind of chance. I agree with you. He might not make that one chance. He might be fired after the next year.
I believe it.
If he doesn't make those adjustments, I can't imagine him being there next year. I think they're going to want somebody.
And not to say Aaron Boone is not a good manager. When you have two back-to-back 100-win seasons with all the injuries, the second year that he had to contend with almost 40. I think it was the most we've ever seen the Yankees have. He should have won Manager of the Year. They didn't give it to him. It's very hard for a Yankee manager to win Manager of the Year.
Not only that, Rocco Baldelli was the fourth manager that deserved that, and somehow he won.
It just doesn't make any sense. But Aaron Boone had two 100-win seasons. I think a 98-win season the year before, and then a 91 this year. He never went under 90 wins. That is a good manager. Yes, he's got a great team, but we've seen a lot of teams. The Blue Jays were a good team, right? Did they make it? Did the Padres make it?
Oh, God. That was almost as bad a collapse as the Mets, and hence their manager's gone, too.
Now, Aaron Boone, a lot of Yankee fans, it's all about winning the World Series. It's very hard to win World Series. I think the Yankees outfield is pretty much set. Hicks out there in center field when he comes back.
If he stays healthy.
Yes. Gardner's gone. He's going to retire or go somewhere else, maybe Philadelphia, play for Girardi.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Kevin Long's there now. I think he's going to retire. I think he wants to retire as a Yankee. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he was a good Yankee. We know Giancarlo Stanton's going to be there. We know Aaron Judge will be there. He'll get arbitrated. The Yankees should this offseason progress. I think the Yankees need to extend him. No arbitration. Give him the contract and get it over with. When healthy, he is by far the best player on the team. And I don't want to hear Tyler say, well, DJ LeMay had a bad year. He's the best hitter on the Yankees. You have a power hitter hitting 287. A power hitter who hit 39 home runs, who's really a 50 home run player, who didn't hit 50 home runs this year. And he had over 100 some RBIs.
Well, 50 home runs is an anomaly. You can't expect that, but definitely capable of his rookie year.
For a power hitter to hit for 287, that's a really good season. If he hit maybe two more home runs, he's an MVP candidate. He's not winning, but he's an MVP candidate. Joey Gallo is a home run or bust player.
Right.
He had 39 home runs. You're going to cry that Joey Gallo is going to be back next year? I don't understand people. He's not an average hitter. But in the season, when a guy like that gets hot for 2 weeks, you're going to love him. He's going to hit 5, 6, 7, 8 home runs. I don't understand the Yankee fans, but I don't understand the Islander fans. So, to me, the Yankees are expected to be a good team next year. They're going to add pitchers. Is Corey Kluber coming back? I don't think so.
I doubt it.
Savarino will be 100% healthy next year. He will be their second guy. I guarantee you that. They're expecting him to be the second guy. What they do with Max Scherzer or who they want to bring in to really pedestal this pitching staff, that's up to them. I think they will bring somebody in. There are a couple of good pitchers that are available. But the bullpen is the most important place where the Yankees have to look. Catcher, I believe Sanchez will be gone. I'll be very surprised if he comes back. I think they're going to be looking for an offensive, defensive catcher. If Perez is cheap enough and Perez wants to come here to win, maybe you can bring Perez in for $14 a year and bring him in for a 3-year deal. I think that would be a great contract for the Yankees. I think it would be a smart contract. And then you could bring in Wells and slowly, gradually move him in as the future catcher of this team, which I believe he will be. Volpe can win the shortstop position, so you don't have to spend any money. Maybe you bring in a veteran, but you have...
You could even trade Gary Sanchez for a veteran guy, too.
You could bring somebody in for Gary Sanchez. I think the Yankees will go after a AA, AAA player that is a major league-ready player. Because Gary Sanchez is a top 7 catcher in the league.
I'm just saying that because we've seen Brian Cashman do veteran-for-veteran swaps, too.
I mean, Cincinnati has a good farm system. Cincinnati needs a catcher.
Yeah, they had a kid that was good at the first half of the season.
They trade a lot with the Yankees.
Maybe them going after that, but because he also plays a little first base too, so if he doesn't develop, maybe I could see that kind of thing.
I would send him into the National League. I know there's no DH yet, but Gary, I think, will play better in the National League with the National League rules.
You said Cincinnati could definitely be a spot. I'm trying to think if there's any other logical ones. Wouldn't it be funny if he went to the Phillies, but that's not happening because of Real Muto. Maybe because of just injury risk, if you're dealing with them throughout the year, maybe the Giants?
The Giants, because I think Buster Posey could look elsewhere.
Injuries, I think he'll be there, but I think he'll...
I don't know. I think Buster Posey...
I think Posey will sign a 1-year deal to stay there, but even as a backup, because I have an offensive backup...
No, he won't go as a backup. He'll go as a starter. How about the Astros?
Yeah, as an offensive catcher? I don't know if the Yankees would trade with the Astros, but...
Why not? If they can get a top prospect from the Astros farm system, why not? I think the Yankees would, especially if they bring in Perez.
Well, yeah, obviously, you bring in Perez, he's as good as gone.
I think Perez, if he wants to win, I think a lot of teams will line up for him. But
how about the Padres? I was thinking the same division. The Padres need a catcher.
Gary Sanchez.
Yeah.
I think that could be something. We'll see. There's going to be a lot of decisions that have to be made with the Yankees, but I think the catching position, is already made. I can't see the Yankees bringing back Gary Sanchez. I know Brian Cashman loves him. Loving somebody and winning with somebody are two different things.